Hello everyone, welcome back to Jinlin Tarot. Tonight I'm doing an Akashic Records reading on Donald Trump. I wanted to see what life lessons he was sent here in this lifetime to learn. And I've already laid the cards out here, so I'm going to turn them down here. These cards at night are a little bit difficult to see. But the first card is the King of Roses. The King of Roses is a loving man. It's about family, community, someone well loved in the community, someone well loved by his family. He's holding a red rose and a white rose, which symbolizes balancing passion with purity, balancing passion with truth. And he's grounded in, surrounding his feet, he's grounded in yellow roses, which symbolize healing and creativity. So he was sent here to heal this loving energy and learning to balance his passions and purity or truth, or both. Yeah, in order to build things for the community, you know, this beautiful aqueduct in the background, this beautiful garden, to build things for the community that are stable. It all starts with love and going within, you know, pulling that love from within. The next card in lessons that he was sent here to learn, this is really an interesting one. This is called the Three of Scrolls, Setting Your Course. And there's a rainbow in the skies. You know, he's on deck with the telescope, or whatever the handheld telescope is there, to see what's on the horizon. He has shipmates here to help guide and steer the ship. You know, it's a beautiful day. The sails are full of wind and setting the course. He was sent here. This card basically represents someone who's sent here to be wealthy. He's sent to look at the long-term goal off in the distance that these guys can't see because they don't have a telescope. He was set to find those long-term goals and to build wealth. Yeah, it's really about broadening horizons, you know, getting into a lot of different types of businesses. Now, one thing that this card does foretell is whatever he's pointing the telescope at is the challenge or obstacle to building the wealth and building the position. And in this layout here, it's pointing to, the telescope is pointing to this card. It was actually on this side, so it's pointing to this card. And this card is called the Lookout. And the Lookout, he's up in the lookout, he's still in a ship. He's still got his telescope, he's still looking at the horizons, but there's fire and flames and a battle going on deck. And this is about a sudden fall or a sudden loss of position. It's about, you know, you're looking off to the distance, but hey, look what's going on right around you. Everything's going up in flames. So, you know, the tendency to look too far off and look at all your wealth and admiring your wealth and everything, you forget about the details and your ship will burn right out from under you. So I found that really interesting, that it's actually showing that that challenge was going to be put to him in this lifetime. The next card is the Seven of Scrolls, and if you've watched any of my other Akashic readings, this card has come up again. It's about the stonemason building the cathedral, and it's about attention to details. The stonemason is making sure everything is straight and plumb. He's building stone by stone something that will last for generations. This would also imply, dealings in real estate. But it's about paying attention to details, and that's a lesson that you can't pass it off to everyone else. You have to pay attention to the details and build things slowly. The next card kind of explains a lot. This card is called Up in the Air. Hot air balloon with two people watching. And this card is about if you push too hard, if you blow up too much hot air, if you push too hard, you push away from you what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. So, if you put too much hot air in the balloon, it may not go in the direction you want it to. It's about influence. And certainly that is something that Trump prides himself on, having influence on people. But, if you blow up too big, like a hot air balloon, you're not going to get where you wanted to go. It's interesting, because there's flames and fire signified in the hot air balloon, and wind. There's wind in the sails and flames on the ship. Wind in the sails here. So there's a lot of air. I believe he's a Gemini. If I'm not mistaken, he's a Gemini, an air sign. But his air is apparently a lot of hot air. And he hasn't learned to balance that. He hasn't learned to start first coming from a place of love. Balancing his passion, balancing his purity, grounding in healing and creativity. Yeah, he's not grounded. A lot of the cards, up in the air, of course, here up in the crow's nest, here on the ship, at sea, he's not grounded. So the other message I'm getting is, about grounding your energies and building on land and building slowly and paying attention to the details. On the bottom of the deck is the King of Scrolls. And the King of Scrolls, he's got all his scrolls around him. He's holding a scroll. He's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. He's been a student. He's learned well. He has a deeper understanding, and he has clarity of thought. And if you don't take the time, to learn well, to do the life lessons, the life schooling, it's very hard to ground yourself. I find it interesting. The two kings are both in gardens. They're very grounded. But the other cards, he's kind of all up in the air. So, I feel like he's got the passion down. He knows how to be passionate about things and push for what he wants, but he hasn't balanced it. He hasn't balanced it with anything. And, this card, because it's also about family, there apparently is a lot of healing that needs to be done within the family also, and making sure that your loved ones are cared for. Wow, interesting reading. I'm also going to pause here for a minute, and I'm going to lay out another spread. I want to take a look at what are the lessons that we have the opportunity to learn from Trump and how he's handling things. Obviously, some come to mind, but I'm going to pause a minute and lay out another spread with the Akashic deck and see what our angels and guides and the Akashic records have to say about what we can learn from him. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, so I've laid another spread out to see what lessons we can learn from Trump. Besides some of the obvious, one of the cards is actually kind of obvious here, but looking to the Akashic records, using the Akashic cards, I'm just going to turn the camera down. The first card is the Five of Roses, the garden, and in this garden are two children, a boy and a girl. The boy's playing with a slingshot. The girl is looking at a butterfly through a magnifying glass. And it's about, understanding that children, they have their own things that they're going to do, whether grown children or young children. They have their own concerns they're involved in, their own things that they're pursuing, and allowing them to do that, but building this nurturing garden around them, so that they can grow up to make their own decisions as adults, and grounding them in love, living by example, showing them by example. Now, in this card, much like in the last reading where the telescope points to the next card, the boy is shooting his slingshot, and the card he is shooting the slingshot towards, which is a big influence on the children, is the Four of Roses, which is views of the ego. So, when you're trying to live by example for your children, you've got a big ego blown up. What are they going to grow up to be? This card is really interesting. The man in the mirror, he's looking at his reflection. The two people here, you don't see them in the mirror. They don't show up. Their reflection does not show up in the mirror at all. So, he's looking at his soul reflection. That's his only concern. He doesn't care about these people. He's thoughtless. He's selfish. He's self-absorbed. Any plans he makes, he's only concerned how it affects him. He's not concerned about how it affects these people. And he's very, very unlikely to change. He's not someone that has that ability to change. So the lesson for us is not to linger too long in the room. Don't stand there looking at him. Not to linger too long. Don't tolerate the dismissiveness. Hoping that things will get better, because he's not going to change. So tolerating someone who doesn't care, about the little people, the best thing to do is to walk away. So it's about not being afraid to step away, not being afraid to leave this person. They may depend on this person for their income, for their livelihood, but don't be afraid to step away from him. It's about looking into your own mirror, looking at your own divine self, and your own energies in your own mirror, and not getting caught up in what his energy is and his reflection. The next card is the Eight of Keys, the Master Artisan. You have the Master Artisan here who's handing gems to his apprentice, and it's about sharing your talents, sharing your gifts, knowing that what you're teaching someone else. And again, I think that goes back to the children. What you're teaching children, what you're teaching people you work with, what you're teaching family, co-workers, anyone, in sharing your talents and sharing your gifts, it'll flow back to you. This person will go out and share with someone else, and they'll share with someone else. And it's about what you reap, you sow. So, if you're sharing with others and you're helping them, and sharing your gifts, it ends up snowballing, and it contributes to many people. There's other students, there's other apprentices in the background here. It'll go to many people, and what you share with one person comes back to you, tenfold. So it's all about not keeping your gifts to yourself, not sharing, not being afraid to share your talents, even if you're a shy person, get out there and share your talents. And then the last card is the Two of Roses, and I find it interesting. 3 of the cards are roses, which is all about love and coming from your divine self and divine love. The Two of Roses is called the Winged Messengers, and there's a dove in the sky who's carrying a message. There's like a tea party set up down here. One of the cups is knocked over, but there's a dove flying in with a message. And then there's a predator. There's a hawk flying in. From this side. There's a hawk flying in with a message, but he's a predator. So, doves represent messages from spirit, from the higher mind, and from a compassionate heart. It's someone who can be the peacemaker or the provider. The hawk, the predator, represents the challenges. In this card, the dove, the higher mind, the compassionate heart, is above the hawk, which represents being able to see clearly, to have clarity, to see clearly, to deal with the challenge and the situation effectively. So rising above sometimes and going to your higher mind and going to your compassionate heart, so that any challenge that comes along doesn't upset more teacups. On the bottom of the deck, oh wow, on the bottom of the deck is Hilarion. Hilarion is an ascended master. There are all these ghost-like figures around that he's teaching. He represents research and science, truth, the logical mind, concrete knowledge, not fake news, concrete knowledge, spirit communication, he brings in evidence detection and drawing conclusions that are easy to understand. But his major role is about clarity. So I think we need to ask Hilarion to be with Robert Mueller right now to make sure with his evidence detection and everything that he's getting all the details correctly. Really interesting. But for us too, it's about finding clarity and finding the true facts, finding the scientific facts, and whether it's climate change or anything else, not listening to the fake facts that keep spinning around and spinning around. So calling on Hilarion actually can help bring clarity to you and bring clarity in confusing and difficult times. So, wow, I find it really interesting every time I use these cards. I hope you enjoyed that. That's what I see, the lessons, that we can learn from Mr. Trump, and hopefully we'll all make it through this time and learn from him what we need to learn from him and send him on his way. Thanks for watching, and I will try to do another Akashic reading. I'm going to try and do 2 or 3 a week on these. I really love the imagery in these, so I hope you enjoy them. If you do, click the like button and subscribe to see future videos. Thanks for watching.